All right, folks, welcome back to Pangburn. We are live. Hopefully, I'm coming through nice and clear for you guys. Today, well, I first thought it was important to go live to talk about what's going on in the political scene in the US. Most importantly, I think we need to talk about the policies on offer and the differences between the Biden and uh, Trump house. What are the differences policy wise? I think that's what should be important when it comes to elections, because ultimately that's what you're going to be able to hold people accountable for, the policies that they offered or claim that they are going to bring to the table and try to enact. Um, Welcome, Andressen, and whether or not they achieve those policies. Now, in most of the political discourse I hear in the United States, and I hear a lot of it, um, nobody knows anything about the policies or very little. But I would say most people know that I speak to are consumed by the rhetoric. Who has better political rhetoric? Who's tripping over their words more? And this is a really low resolution attempt at the democratic process, at democracy, in my opinion. I think people should be informed when they go to vote on the policies on offer and how they differ. So I'm going to simply be reading a comprehensive breakdown, but nothing super detailed, and providing some citations today where people can learn more about policies. I know that might sound boring. One thing I will say right off the bat, um, what up, Tommy? Uh, it should be easy for you to condemn the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. This should be easy for you if you're a morally sound human being, if you value human well-being. Um, you know, every human being should be worth your moral consideration. Now, it is true that people who have committed crimes, we should hold them to the law of the land. It's important to have a law of the land, in my opinion, to be able to hold people accountable. This is true. And it's also true that some political candidates and leaders and people are going to hold ideas that you detest. But killing them should not be the answer in the democratic process. There can be calls to war in politics and geopolitics. Um, but anything Donald Trump has done to date, you are not justified in a call to war against Donald Trump in that he deserves to be assassinated or killed. And again, that's my ethical opinion on the matter. If you feel differently, let me know in the comment section. But it should be easy to condemn the act of the would-be assassin. Make sure you guys drop a like. We have a few of you in the room. We're going to be talking policy today, which I know is the unpopular thing to do in the United States political discussions, it seems. But I'm going to shove it down everyone's throat anyway today, even if it gets 0 views. So first, and this will eventually be sliced up by the Pangburn team and released as shorts. Again, the goal here is to try to educate people on the actual policy comparisons here. And they're not going to be super detailed, but they are going to be detailed enough to a point where people can see the differences. And by the end of this, I suspect if many people come to this information in a good faith, helpful way, they will realize that these two political parties are not as far apart as one might think. There are a few wedge issues here, but and there's a difference in focus. But it's not like one team is Team Hitler and one team is Team Jesus. That's not what's going on in the United States. uh, yeah, so welcome everyone to the stream. Most of my streams are not scheduled at all, so it'll just be whoever's kind of available. And I only just shared to the Discord server, so everyone else can come to this after. So we are going to be going through policies. But again, yeah, the Donald Trump assassination attempt should be very easy for you to condemn. If you're having a problem condemning it, the answer isn't to dig your heels in and try to find a reason. In my opinion, the answer is you need to rethink your ethical framework. Okay, here's the comprehensive comparison of Trump versus Biden policies for 2024. Economy. Let's do economy first. Let's look at 3 key points for the Donald Trump campaign. Tax policy. Trump's signature economic policy involved the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, which lowered the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21% and reduced individual tax rates across income brackets. This was intended to stimulate economic growth by increasing corporate profits and encouraging investment. So let's see what you guys think about that tax policy. Do you think this is a wise way of going about trying to stimulate economic growth by increasing corporate profits and encouraging investment? First of all, do you think this will increase corporate profits and encourage investment? Again, one more time, the Donald Trump tax policy, Trump's signature economic policy involved the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, which lowered the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21% and reduced individual tax rates across income brackets. So we're looking at like the very common from the right side of the political aisle is a tax reduction. And what do you guys think about that? Let me know if this is something you like to see. Are you in favor of more taxes? I tend to be in favor, like up in Canada. Like I think Canadians can pay more taxes, and the more so long as everyone's always interested in, like, some people become very cynical about this. They'll be like, I don't want to pay more taxes because I don't trust how the government's going to be spending this money. That's a very cynical, pessimistic view. Yeah, I think the answer is like, yeah, the government needs money to build infrastructure to make the country great again. But in Canada in general, I'm in favor of the wealthier tax brackets being taxed more, so long as there's a comprehensive sound plan that is seeking to maximize well-being for the communities coming from the government. And in Canada, I think there is, and I think our tax money is well spent. Super Chicken says, speaking of those who say Trump is worse than Hitler, I doubt if during World War II anyone said, yes, Hitler is bad, but I wouldn't want to see anything bad happen to him. Yeah, you get this comparison of Trump to Hitler is ludicrous. This is coming from people who have zero understanding of Hitler and the history of World War II and what happened leading up to World War II. Yeah, we're not going to get into the details of World War II today, but like it's a comparison. It's like it's so absurd that it's like we're talking about comparing Jeffrey Dahmer to the principal at school that you don't like. This is the comparison, and it's absurd. Nikolai Borbe says, what did Hitler do leading into World War II? That was so bad. Severe lying and propaganda, coups, involved in murder, murder of political opponents. Yeah, all kinds of things. Not not to mention his like the most insidious of anti-Semitic, anti-Jew propaganda. But yeah, you can go on to ChatGPT and it'll give you a basic. Well, if you want, here. And if you want the citations and references, we can do that. Yeah, so number one, anti-Semitic policies and actions. Hitler's virulent anti-Semitism was evident in his book Mein Kampf, published in 1925, where he outlined his hatred of Jews and laid the groundwork for their persecution. By 1933, with Hitler as chancellor, the Nazi implementation the Nazi implemented the Nuremberg laws in 1935, stripping Jews of their citizenship and basic rights. This was all before World War II. Suppression of political opponents. Hitler established a totalitarian regime by crushing political opposition. The Reichsfire in 1933 was used as a pretext to arrest communists and suppress dissent. The Enabling Act of 1933 gave Hitler dictatorial powers, effectively dissolving democratic institutions. The Light of the Long Knives in 1934 saw a purge of SA leaders and other political adversaries. Murder. Militarization and aggression. Hitler's foreign policy was marked by blatant violations of Treaty of Versailles, which limited Germany's military capacities. He initiated a massive rearmament program. Hitler's aggressive expansionist policy was further evidenced by the annexation of Austria. So like all of these things that led, leading up to World War II, that led to mass slaughter and death. Ideological indoctrination, propaganda. The Nazi regime use of propaganda led by Goebbels was instrumental in spreading Hitler's ideology. The regime controlled media, education, and culture to indoctrinate the German populace with Nazi beliefs, promoting Aryan superiority and demonizing Jews and other minorities. Economic, and this was pre-World War II, economic exploitation and forced labor. Hitler's regime exploited economic measures to strengthen the Nazi state and its war machine. The state engaged in large-scale infrastructure projects like the Autobahn, using forced labor from concentration camps and occupied territories. And these were often, people who just had a difference of political opinion. So, yeah, those are some of the evils. Nikolai says a lot of similarities. No. How? Which similarities there to Trump? So there was just a question about what did Hitler do leading into World War II that was so bad? So those were just some of the points. If you guys are hanging out, please smash the like button. It really helps the health of this stream. We're going to be checking out policies today. Trump versus Biden policies. Okay, let's get through economics. Okay, so first, we just read the tax policy of Donald Trump and what it's likely going to look like continuing into 2024. Regulation, emphasize deregulation, rolling back numerous regulations, particularly those affecting environmental protections and financial oversight. The goal was to reduce the burden on business and spur economic activity. So, yeah, a rollback on regulation is a Trump policy. And let me know in the comment section what you guys think about that. Do you think there's too much regulation out there? Do you think business is being stifled by this? Do you think it's hurting the American economy? This would be the perspective of Donald Trump and his campaign, that there's too much regulation out there on businesses. Trade. Trump implemented tariffs on Chinese goods to reduce the trade deficit and protect American industries, leading to a trade war. He also negotiated NAFTA, resulting in the USMCA, United States Mexico Canada Agreement, aimed at improving trade terms for American workers and businesses. Yeah, what do you guys think of this agreement? Do you agree with it? So those are the three bullet points, big economic policy items for Trump. So the tax policy aimed at tax reduction. So corporate tax rate going from 35% to 21%. This is aimed to try to stimulate economic growth by increasing corporate profits and encouraging investment. Regulation, emphasizing deregulation, taking some of the regulatory pressures off of businesses in order to spur economic activity. And then the trade, Trump implemented tariffs on Chinese goods. He also renegotiated NAFTA. So those are the three main Donald Trump economic policies. Joe Biden, tax policy. Biden has proposed increasing the corporate tax rate to 28%, and that was up from Donald Trump's 21%, down to 21% in 2017. So Biden has proposed increasing the corporate tax rate to 28% and raising taxes on individuals earning $400,000 annually. His plan aims to fund infrastructure projects, healthcare, and social services. Okay, so with this additional taxing of people who make $400,000 or more annually, the plan is to use those funds on infrastructure projects, healthcare, and social services. What do you guys think of that policy? Do you agree with taxing the 400,000 plus per year more? Yeah, and feel free to jump into the conversations and details. It looks like Thomas is a fan of this. More taxes to people making 400,000 plus a year. Now, the counter argument to that is like, you don't have to tax them. They're going to spend their money anyway, investing and whatnot, and make it attractive for them to do that in the U.S. economy. But the other way to go, of course, or another way to go, not that there's only two ways, but another way to go is to tax them directly and to put those funds towards things like education and social programming. Not the kind of social programming that people might be phobic to. Okay. So that's the proposed tax policy. The big thing being high, increasing the corporate tax rate. That would be the biggest difference between the tax policies, and then the additional taxing for the 400,000 plus incomes more. Public investment. Focus on public investment in infrastructure, clean energy, and technology to drive long-term economic growth. The Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which allocates 1.2 trillion towards rebuilding roads, bridges, and broadband networks, is a cornerstone of Joe Biden's economic strategy. So, public investment, that's a big one. So this would be allocating $1.2 trillion of the budget towards an overhaul on infrastructure, which would include clean energy. Now, people, I don't think Biden's team means clean coal by that. So I think by clean energy, we can probably well, let's see what does here. Let's see what's meant by clean energy here. Joe Biden's clean energy policy refers to a comprehensive approach to transition the United States from fossil fuels to renewable and low carbon energy sources to combat climate change, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and promote sustainable economic growth. Here are the key components and examples. Uh, Okay, so solar and wind. Biden aims to significantly expand the use of solar and wind. Hydropower and geothermal, while less prominent than solar and wind, hydropower and geothermal energy are also part of the renewable energy mix Biden supports. Electric vehicles. Biden's plan promotes the transition to electric vehicles by supporting the manufacturing of EVs and establishing a network of charging stations across the United States. Uh, Incentives for consumers to buy electric vehicles, such as tax credits, are also part of this strategy. Energy efficiency, improving energy efficiency in buildings, appliances, and industrial processes is a key part of Biden's clean energy policy. This includes retrofitting buildings to be more energy efficient. Okay. Standards for appliances and industrial equipment. This would be pollution standards. He's got infrastructure and grid modernization, upgrading the nation's electrical grid to accommodate more renewable energy sources. That's a big job. Infrastructure projects such as building new transmission lines to connect renewable energy sources to major consumption centers. Big part of the plan. Research and development. Biden supports increased funding for research and development in clean energy technologies. This includes advanced nuclear reactors, next generation solar and wind. So if you're someone who's big on nuclear power and wanting to advance Biden's making this is part of the policy, is to put more money towards this. Environmental justice and job creation. A significant aspect of Biden's clean energy policy is to focus on environmental justice, ensuring that disadvantaged communities benefit from the transition to clean energy. This includes addressing pollution and health impacts in these communities and ensuring they have access to clean energy solutions. The clean energy transition is also seen as a job creation engine. Okay, great. So that's when we hear Biden in Biden's policies mention clean energy, that's what we're referring to. And this is, I know that this seems like a boring process to go through all of this, but this is what I think the voter should be doing. And there are tools out there that are making this much easier for people to get this information in a digestible way. ChatGPT and other AI engines are one of those things. Now, the important thing when you're using these tools is to use them correctly. That would be, when you're looking at things like this, make sure you ask these AI engines to provide you the citations and references, and check those citations and references. And if you're looking up something that is of a scientific nature, make sure you have it provide you the scientific references and citations. Because sometimes these AIs will simply pull from like some kind of like pop medicine website that will say like things like, well, it is thought to be good for the baby in your uterus to eat oranges because it is thought to increase its ability to smile when it's born. Like, it'll be some kind of pop thing, and then you'll see there's no actual study to demonstrate anything here. So you got to use these tools correctly. Okay. And Chapman says 400K a year also includes small business owners' jobs would be lost. So, yeah, I mean, some people might say uh, a tax on people making 400K a year plus would lead to them wanting to maintain that level of income, and by that, some jobs may be lost in that process. That is true, but it's also true that some people might just take the tax hit and make less money, right? Like, that happens. Well, I've had my taxes increase before, and significantly. When you move into a different tax bracket, and it didn't affect like whether how many employees or staff I was able to support and have on my team. Um, I know when it gets much on a much larger scale, let's say you have 10,000 staff and there's a tax increase, they might have to cut some labor. Um, but there are always going to be changes in the economy that do cause this, and I I don't see it as an argument as to why we ought not tax higher incomes at a higher rate. Um, and I think that should be done within reason, wisely, with many different considerations, including the one that you're bringing up. Um, but I think people. Well, it's interesting. Do people agree that there should be a more fair distribution of wealth? Like, is that their ideal world, or or do you guys feel like that's more up to the individual if they want to engage in that game? Yuri says, "Hi, on the energy stuff, 20% of our electricity comes from coal. How can they push for EV transition before fixing that? Not to mention the surplus you would need to fuel millions of EVs." Yep, these are good questions. So here's what we can do. I'm going to I'm going to take Yuri. I'm going to take your question here. Very good question. And I'm going to see, and again, I'm going to ask for citations. I'm going to put it into an AI engine here, into ChatGPT 4. And so you said on the energy stuff, 20% of our electricity comes from coal. How can they push for EV transition before fixing that? Not to mention the surplus you would need to fuel millions of EVs. Addressing, and then I asked it to reference and cite Biden's policies, and also what has been said regarding these questions. So, addressing this concern about transitioning to electric vehicles, EVs, while a significant portion of our electricity still comes from coal, is an important question. Here's how my administration, because it's speaking from the perspective of Biden, plans to address these challenges. One, accelerating the shift to renewable energy. We are committed to rapidly increasing the share of electricity generated from renewable sources like wind, solar, and hydropower. Our target is to achieve a carbon-free power sector by 2035. This involves substantial investment in renewable energies, infrastructure, and technologies to replace coal and other fossil fuels. Grid modernization. Okay, so they're going to go through the grid modernization again to support the influx of EVs and ensure that our grid can handle the increased demand. We are investing in modernizing our electrical grid. So that's part of it. Energy efficiency, improving energy efficiency across all sectors reduces overall demand, making it easier to meet the needs of EVs, including retrofitting buildings, setting higher efficiency standards. Okay, supporting technology innovations. This is one way. Uh, Policy and incentives through policies like clean energy standard and incentives for both consumers and manufacturers. We aim to drive the adoption of clean energy solutions. Phasing out coal. While coal currently plays a significant role in our energy mix, we are working on a plan to phase out coal plants in favor of cleaner alternatives. This includes providing support for coal communities to transition. Okay, so these coal communities, or communities that rely on coal, this campaign is putting it on their shoulders to uh, to give or offer cleaner alternatives. So this would include a great amount of support for coal communities that'll be required for them to be able to transfer to new economic opportunities. Um, and what that support would look like would look like all the things we just outlined: accelerating the shift to renewable energy, grid modernization, energy efficiency, supporting technological innovations, like all of these things, technological infrastructure, all these things that a coal community would need. Um, Nikolai says, yeah, I think, by the way, can I ask how important for the implementation of these policies relies on Biden himself and not just his team? Well, the when you're electing officials in the United States, right? You're not only electing the leader, you're electing the Biden campaign, which would include his vice, his all of his experts, and everyone who's tasked to carry out and implement these policies. Um, yeah. See, it's become like when people are having conversations about policies in the United States, it's all too foreign. Notice how we haven't mentioned once, like, Biden seems like he has dementia. How can I trust him? Or Trump's a lying retard. Like we haven't had to mention that, right? We're looking at the proposals in the policies and what you can hold them against, hold them accountable for. Okay. And it's funny, like, this stuff is not popular. It's boring to some people, but I think this information should be what's popular, what should be interesting people. Because this is what they plan to do with your money. This is how they plan to form their budget, and how they're going to negotiate on your behalf on a global stage. Shouldn't this matter to you? Doesn't this matter more than whether or not Biden fumbled his words during every speech? I mean, he's an old man, right? Yeah, he's old. He's old as fuck. No question. But shouldn't the policies matter? Yeah, but what if Biden dies? Yeah, he has a vice. What if Trump dies, right? What if there's a successful assassination attempt? What if we can go through the list. But let's continue going through the policies, even though it's highly unpopular. Okay, so we got through the tax policy, public investment on clean energy, and technology to drive long-term economic growth. And now the third point would be the trade point for Joe Biden: maintains tariffs on Chinese goods, but has shifted focus to targeted tariffs on products like electric vehicles. Biden has also emphasized rebuilding alliances and participating in multilateral trade agreements to counterbalance China's influence. So let's compare, just because it's been a while, let's compare the trade policies here. So Trump implemented tariffs on Chinese goods to reduce the trade deficit and protect American industries, leading to a trade war, this information says here. He also renegotiated. Actually, let's check on that. How did How did Trump's Chinese goods tariffs lead to a trade war? Donald Trump's imposition of tariffs on Chinese goods led to a trade war due to a series of aggressive trade policies and retaliatory measures between the United States and China. Here's a detailed explanation of how this unfolded. Initial tariffs and rationale. One, tariff imposition. In 2018, the Trump administration imposed tariffs on $50 billion worth of Chinese goods, citing unfair trade practices, including intellectual property theft, forced technology transfer, and trade imbalances. The tariffs targeted industrial sectors like aerospace, information and communication technology, and machinery. Section 301 investigation. These tariffs were based on the findings of a Section 301 investigation by the U.S. Trade Representative, USTR, which concluded that China's policies were harming American businesses and workers. This investigation gave the Trump administration the legal basis to impose tariffs without needing approval from the World Trade Organization. Escalation and retaliation. Chinese retaliate. Now, that first section, do you guys do you think that was a good thing? Okay, so the USTR came back with a study that concluded that China's policies were harming American businesses and workers, and then Trump acted on this by imposing these tariffs. Do you think this was a good play? It would maybe, if that's what this USTR found, then this sounds like Trump acted within the best interests of the American people here. What do you guys think? Escalation and retaliation. Chinese retaliation. In response, China imposed tariffs on an equivalent amount of U.S. goods, including agricultural products like soybeans, pork, and cotton. This was aimed at hurting sectors in the U.S. economy that were politically significant, particularly in states that supported Trump. Further rounds of tariffs. The trade war escalated with multiple rounds of tariffs. The U.S. imposed additional tariffs of $200 billion worth of Chinese goods, and China retaliated with tariffs on $60 billion of U.S. goods. By the end of 2019, the U.S. had imposed tariffs on roughly $360 billion of Chinese imports, and China retaliated with tariffs of $110 billion of U.S. goods. So, depending on how you look at this, sure, but it looks like in the end, Trump did achieve the goal of trying to turn the balance there. Economic impact, global supply chains. The trade war disputed global supply chains, causing increased costs for businesses and consumers. Companies had to adjust their sourcing strategies, often moving production to other countries to avoid tariffs, which led to increased production costs and delays. Market volatility, and this is coming from Forbes. The uncertainty caused by the trade war led to volatility in global financial markets. Businesses were hesitant to invest due to the unpredictability of trade policies affecting economic growth and stability. Negotiations and partial agreements. Phase 1 deal in January 2020, the US and China signed a Phase 1 trade deal. China agreed to purchase an additional $200 billion worth of US goods over 2 years, including agricultural products, manufactured goods, energy, and services. In exchange, the US agreed to reduce some tariffs, but kept the bulk of them in place to enforce the agreement. Ongoing tensions, continued strains. Despite the Phase 1 deal, tensions remained high. The core issues of intellectual property theft, state subsidies, and forced technology transfers were not fully resolved. The tariffs largely stayed in place, continuing the impact businesses and consumers businesses and consumers in both countries. Interesting. Okay. So depending on what you make of that, I'm sure some people are going to see that as like an unnecessary maybe escalation with China. Others might think it's a good thing. Looks like there was some financial gain on the U.S. part. Um, just checking out your guys' comments here. Um, Again, this will eventually be. I know most people are at work right now, but this will eventually be cut up into shorts that are labeled correctly for the particular policies in question. I just thought I would do this during a live stream so some of you could come in and engage. And I'm glad that some of you are actually interested in policy. That puts a smile on my face. Okay. So we've gone through economy. Now let's go to healthcare. Healthcare, there's going to be two key points, bullet points for each section here. Um, so for Donald Trump, the Affordable Care Act, ACA. Trump's administration attempted to repeal and replace the ACA, advocating for alternatives that would reduce federal involvement in healthcare. The effort was unsuccessful, but it led to the elimination of the individual mandate penalty. Okay, let's take a look at what is the individual mandate penalty. The individual mandate penalty was a key provision of the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Here's a detailed explanation. What is the individual mandate penalty definition? The individual mandate penalty required most Americans to have health insurance coverage or pay a penalty when filing their federal income tax return. The rationale behind this mandate was to ensure a broad and balanced pool of insured individuals, including both healthy and sick people, to stabilize insurance markets and keep premiums affordable. Penalty details calculation. The penalty for not having health insurance was calculated in two ways, either as a percentage of household income or a flat dollar amount per person in the household, which was higher. For example, in 2016, the penalty was 2.5% of household income, or $695 per adult, and $347.50 per child, up to a maximum of $2,085. Then there were some exemptions. Certain individuals were exempt from the penalty, including those with very low income. Purpose and impact: encouraging coverage. The primary goal of the individual mandate was to encourage people to obtain health insurance, thereby increasing the number of insured individuals and spreading risk among a large pool. Yeah. Market stability: by requiring healthier individuals to purchase insurance, this mandate aimed to balance the insurance risk pool. Changes and repeal: Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. The individual mandate penalty was effectively repealed, stating in 2019 by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, signed into law by President Donald Trump. The penalty was reduced to $0, which means that while the mandate still technically exists, there is no financial penalty for non-compliance. So let me know what you guys think of how that played out. Do you think Donald Trump was right to enforce the penalties down to $0 and remove that financial penalty, or do you agree with Obamacare as it stood, to try and like it was said, to widen the net of the risk with regards to healthcare? It's I think that what they're trying to do there in a roundabout way is trying to do kind of what we do up in Canada, where we all pay taxes that include the idea that we don't nobody is going to everybody has health care, everybody gets health care up in Canada. That's what we are all happy to pay for. Now, when I say all, I mean the country as a whole, and we're grounded on that issue. There are people who don't like it, but as a whole, I think Canada supports that healthcare policy. Yuri says, leave it to the market on the EV front. It will autocorrect if it's organic. On the energy front, number one, nuclear. We should focus on it considering the new developments. Yeah, it looks like the Biden. Let's see. I'm also going to check to see if what the Trump campaign's position is on nuclear. The Trump campaign's position on nuclear power has been supportive, viewing it as a crucial component of all of the above energy strategy that includes a mix of renewable and traditional energy sources. Support for nuclear energy. The Trump administration actively supported nuclear power as a reliable and clean energy source. President Trump signed the Nuclear Energy Innovation and Modernization Act, NEIMA, in January 2019, which aimed to modernize the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and encourage the development of advanced nuclear reactor technologies. Innovation and research. The administration promoted investment in research and development of advanced nuclear technologies, including small modular reactors, SMRs, and other next generation nuclear reactors. The goal was to enhance the safety, efficiency, and cost effectiveness of nuclear power. This entire citation is coming from Routers, by the way. I think it's pronounced Routers. Regulatory reform efforts were made to streamline regulatory process to make it easier for new nuclear technologies to be developed. Climate change and emissions. The Trump campaign highlighted nuclear power's role in reducing greenhouse gas emissions, positing it as a crucial component of efforts to address climate change while maintaining energy security and reliability. Despite generally rolling back various environmental regulations, the administration recognized nuclear energy as a low-emission energy source. Energy independence. Promoting nuclear energy was part of a broader goal of achieving American energy independence by increasing the domestic production of nuclear power. The campaign argued that the U.S. could reduce its reliance on foreign energy sources. So Trump campaign very pro nuclear energy sources. All right, let's go back to healthcare. Okay, drug policies was the second point. Promoted drug prices. Promoted policies to, this is the Trump campaign, promoted policies to lower prescription drug prices, including allowing states to import cheaper drugs from Canada and implementing a rule to tie Medicare payments for certain drugs to lower prices paid in other countries. Does that seem like a reasonable policy? Including allowing states to import cheaper drugs from Canada and implementing a rule to tie Medicare payments for certain drugs to lower prices. That sounds like a good idea to me. I am, Nikolai, I am using, so with ChatGPT 4, you can kind of use the tool to train in what you always need to see with regards to information. So with these tools, with these AI tools, I am on ChatGPT 4.0 right now, but with these AI tools, I have to stress that you need to make sure it's giving you the citations of where it's collecting the information and any relevant references. So a lot of this information is being cited and referenced from Routers, and it's giving me direct links to where the information is being pulled from. And that information, when we go over to the uh, um, router's website, it will show you where that information is being pulled from as well. And a lot of it is being cited from various sources like PolitiFact and things like that. You can actually train, if you trust particular sources over others, you can actually train the AI tool to also give you those resources, or only give you those resources. But I would try not to bring too much of your bias into the tool. Try to let it do its thing to find you the most accurate information, and check its work. I think that's important. But this I tend to like this point form um, presentation of the information, and I like to see direct comparisons. Some people won't like to see it that way, but that's what I've done. Beamy Yoon says, "Oh, so Nikolai, the prompting with this is simply just asking Chat GPT-4, and again, this is within a political folder I have. So the political folder I have has been uh, adjusted and trained in a way that I like to see this information. So again, you're going to have to figure out what works best for you, because everyone likes to see information a bit of a different way. Like this, the way I like to see it might not. And I'm talking about the presentation of the information, but I'm able to go in and say, give me a comprehensive comparison, including citations and references of the policies on offer, um, comparing the Trump campaign and the Biden campaign for 2024. And then it will produce that. And often I'm going to have to ask it after that prompt for much more detail and examples. And then from that, when I'm reading through, if I want, like we've been doing, going through this process, if I want to say to get better educated on a particular thing, like the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, or whatever, the Obamacare policy, then I can just do that, or ask for clarification on a point below. So it's, I think this stuff is simple enough to use. Um, Beanie deleted their question, but you asked if I was a socialist. No, I'm not a socialist. I'm happy to answer any question on. I don't tend to categorize myself like that. If you want to know my worldview, you can go to pang-burn.com/about. My first book is, I'm trying to get it out as quickly as I can, but as I work harder on the book, I learn more, and I end up refining it. But if you go to this about page, you can see a rundown of my virtues and maxims, and what you can do, which is kind of amazing with these new AI tools. Like if you do have Chat GPT-4 3.5, you can get a pretty good idea of how I will feel about any policy or any event or anything within the purview of the human experience, by simply putting my virtues and maxims into something like Chat GPT and asking the AI to analyze any particular issue or phenomena through the lens of the Pangburn virtues and maxims, and you're going to get a pretty damn accurate version of what I would say. Um, Part of it is because my virtues and maxims are public information now, and these tools can also learn more about what's written about them. When my book comes out, my first book doesn't have a title yet, but it is going to be about these virtues and maxims. It's going to give, or it's going to give a lot more information of how these are applied, how they synergize together, um, what they say about digesting politics and phenomena, and different things. So it will include that. It will also include my epistemological breakdown of how I came to these, how I came to know that these virtues and maxims were good, but and by what standard, and so that'll all be explained in the first book. But yeah, thanks for the question. I don't like, some people might hear me talk about a certain policy and say that guy's a damn socialist, um, or they might say they might hear me congratulate Donald Trump on a particular policy or whatever, and they might say this guy's a fucking Trump supporter. So it'll, people are going to have different reactions to different positions I take, but I analyze things currently right now through my virtues and maxims. And for anyone that can't um where did my page go? And for anyone that can't click right now, I can give you a quick rundown. So fallibilism is my first maxim. Uh, I won't do the full breakdown because this video is something different. But fallibilism, well-being, communication, patience, lightheartedness, and inspiration. Those are the 6 Pangburn virtues, and they have corresponding maxims as well that go with them. Frank O'Donnell asked, is his name actually Pangburn? Is that a name he chose for the channel? My last name is Pangburn. My first name is Travis. My middle names, my full name is Travis Dean Charles Pangburn. So, and but the main focus of this particular video and this live stream is my team will be slicing up different portions of this so that we get more policy information out there and policy information flowing. I know policy information and comparisons and analysis is not super popular, but I find it to be much more important. Yeah, epistemology is a study of knowledge. Yes. My first maxim had Jamie Presley on the cover. My first maxim might have had China the wrestler on the cover. I don't know why. No, I was really into wrestling at one point, and I came into contact with. Actually, I think that might have been a Playboy. Can I say Playboy on here? Probably. Demonetized. Okay. Let's get back to the boring information. No, policy information should be important. It should be what we are using our own virtues and our own worldviews to analyze, to see where the good really is. Anyone can get up and put on a theatrical performance, a political theatrical performance, but I think the information and the things that we can hold them accountable to is what's important. Donald Trump's first maxim had China on the cover. Yep. You guys. Okay. Let's get back to work. Wait. Oh, okay. Here we go. Okay. Let's get back to healthcare. So just to summarize, Donald Trump's 2 big healthcare items, repeal and replace ACA. So they brought the potential penalties for not having life insurance down to 0. And then the drug price reduction, including allowing states to import cheaper drugs from Canada, and implementing a rule to tie Medicare payments for certain drugs to lower prices paid in other countries. So let's go to Joe Biden for his 2 big points here. Affordable Care Act, ACA, seeks to expand and strengthen the ACA, introduced measures to lower premiums and out-of-pocket costs, and proposed adding a public option to providing a government-run health insurance plan alongside private plans. So if you're a fan of there being a government-run health insurance plan alongside the private options, then it looks like your political attitudes would line up with what Biden's trying to do with the Affordable Care Act here. Drug prices supports allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices directly with pharmaceutical companies, aiming to reduce costs for consumers. Biden also advocates for capping insulin prices and limiting out-of-pocket costs for seniors. Drug price caps seem to be a good thing, right? Is anyone not in favor of drug price capping? And if so, what are the arguments? I think control on drug pricing is a good thing. There needs to be some oversight there. Imagine we can use this extreme example. Someone creates the magic pill to cure all cancer, right? What should that cost? Should it be like the internet where it's just like given to the people? Obviously everything costs something, but and how would that be enforced? And what is an ethically sound enforcement or decision there? Immigration, everyone's favorite topic. That's a big one in the United States, immigration. What do you guys think is a bigger, a more polarizing political topic in the United States? Abortion or immigration? I'm probably going to give the edge to abortion, just because there seems to be more wiggle room in some people when it comes to immigration. People who are anti-abortion, there seems to be no wiggle room, and people who are pro-abortion see this as like a fundamental right. I think abortion is a more polarizing issue, but let me know what you guys think. Make sure you guys take a second to drop a like. It does help the health of the stream. I appreciate you guys being here. I know it's in the middle of a work day, but this is part of what I do for work. And again, to let you all know, if you have to leave or something, this will get chopped up into smaller clips so that we can get some good conversations happening out there about policies specifically. That's the goal here. Okay, immigration. Donald Trump, border security, advocated for the construction of a border wall along the U.S.-Mexico border. We'll build a wall. Implemented policies like the Migrant Protection Protocols, MPP, also known as Remain in Mexico, requiring asylum seekers to wait in Mexico while their claims are processed. Legal immigration, reduced the number of refugees admitted to the U.S. and imposed travel bans on several predominantly Muslim countries. Trump's administration also attempted to end the Defend Action for Childhood Arrivals, DACA program. So what do you guys think of this? Reduce the number of refugees admitted to the U.S. and impose travel bans. What do you guys think about the travel bans on predominantly Muslim countries? Do you think that this is ever justified as a protective order? What do you guys think? To me, I don't think, I think you need to treat people individually. You can't all of a sudden put a Muslim. I think that's ridiculous to put a Muslim ban in place. Even if you believe like I do that radical Islam and Islamic violence is one of the biggest threats in the world today to human well-being. I believe that. That doesn't mean you should have a Muslim ban. Most Muslims are nonviolent, people that just want to live and raise families just like you and I, and they might have some ideas and beliefs that you disagree with, or they might even on a large scale have some pretty startling attitudes towards certain issues. But I do think we ought not commit people of thought crime, and we ought not commit people um, of their group or religious association. It would be as absurd if Afghanistan, not that a lot of Christians are visiting Afghanistan, but if Afghanistan decided to have a Christian ban, it's like I find it equally absurd. Most Muslims that come into the United States are going to be peaceful, law-abiding people. Um, there are going to be some Muslims uh, that have radical attitudes, but they understand that they need to follow the law when they come to the United States. They should be allowed to have those attitudes. They should not be committed of thought crime. But the key is, like, people need to understand when they come wherever they go, they need to obey the law. Um, Yuri says his policy was slightly too much for me in 2016. It's different now. Infidel says I'm an anti-theist and that travel ban stuff is ridiculous. It's a form of bigotry. Yeah, I agree. Yuri says I don't want to become the UK. Yeah, when you say that you don't want to become the UK, you find that there you're seeing too many incidents of, like, radical Islam rearing its ugly head. But again, I would implore you to look at the number of peaceful, law-abiding Muslims in the UK versus the number of people who have caused issues. And you're going to see that it is a handful of people that cause these problems. And it's not, you cannot blame, a religion that has, billions of people under its flag for the behavior of the few. Um, we can definitely, when it comes to the war of ideas and debate, we can definitely point to the Quran and be like, "Hey, man, this stuff is anti-human." We can get into those conversations, but if people have some anti-human well-being beliefs, that does not mean they can't follow the law and obey the law, and including the way they raise their children, right? You can't beat the shit out of your children in this country, let's say. And if you get caught, regardless of your religious feelings about it, you're going to pay the penalty under the law. So be prepared for that. So part of that is making sure that any new people that are coming into a country understand the law of the land. And I'm pro democracy. I'm really big on democracy. I think democracy is currently our best system that seeks to represent the individual, the communities, and then I would never claim that it's perfect, but it does have its problems. But the more bureaucratic tape tends to help with a lot of those problems. And I'm a big proponent of what we have going on up in Canada. I think we have a very good. I think Canada is a very well tuned, oiled machine when it comes to our democratic process and how things roll up here. And I know there's Canadians that disagree with me about that. And I could be wrong about that, because ultimately my first maxim, certainty is almost certainly unattainable, is my fallibilism maxim. And fallibilism is my first virtue. So everything I say to you, everything I believe today, I might not believe tomorrow, because I could be wrong. I'm just a guy trying to interpret the information coming at me through my experience, through my senses. And my sentiments, born of my genetics, are interacting with these things and causing me to have certain attitudes towards them. But this can all change. Okay, quick summary. Border security, Trump advocated for the construction of a border wall. Uh, he implemented the policy of MPP, the Migrant Protection Protocols, also known as Remain in Mexico, requiring asylum seekers to wait in Mexico while their claims are processed. Now, I actually, I have a bit of a personal connection. My wife is Mexican. She grew up in Mexico City, um, and she has known people who have had to seek asylum. And one thing I'll say is that so long you can have asylum seekers wait in Mexico while their claims are being processed, but they have to be waiting in a secure location. In Mexico, if the cartel's after you or your family, um, and you're trying to get away because you wouldn't pay their protection fee or whatever. And a lot of the times it's like the mafia, right? You don't pay your fee, they're gonna, okay, we're gonna harm you and your family. Um, they can't just wait at home uh, while their claims are processed. Um, they're requiring asylum now. So there has to be something within that process where it's like they're not simply just asked to sit at home and wait while we process your request. This is, can this be abused? Yes, of course it can. Um, and those who do abuse it and get caught should suffer the consequences under the law. I think we need to go that route, investigating these things, as opposed to, of course, never asking asylum seekers to like, oh, just stay put and wait. They have to be like held at the border somewhere under protection, and that causes all kinds of different issues. So, yeah, let me know what you guys think about that. But those are my current thoughts on it. Legal immigration reduce, and then Trump also reduced the number of refugees admitted to the U.S. and imposed travel bans on predominantly Muslim countries. So I disagree with these travel bans. I think they were short-lived. I don't know if they passed or let's see. Let's get the right information here. These travel bans were part of a series of executive orders and proclamations, often referred to collectively as the Muslim ban. Here are the key details and developments. Executive Order 13769, which was January 27, 2017. This order, titled Protecting the Nation from Foreign Terrorists and Entry into the United States, initially banned entry into the U.S. For citizens of 7 predominantly Muslim countries: Iran, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen, for 90 days. It also suspended, okay, this was for 90 days. It also suspended the U.S. refugee admissions program. And I think if I remember correctly, and this is where I'm just going to see how good my memory is, and you guys can check me on this. This 90-day Muslim ban, the answer was, we need to do this so we can figure out what's going on. Like, I think that was just based on my memory, what I was hearing when this was happening. Legal challenges. The order faced immediate legal challenges and was temporarily blocked by federal courts. Executive Order 13780, March 6th, so the following March. This revised order removed Iraq from the list of banned countries, but maintained restrictions on Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Syria, and Yemen. It also made exemptions for green card holders and those with valid visas. Legal status. This version also faced legal challenges and was partially blocked by federal courts, leading to further revisions and clarifications. Proclamation 9645, September 24th, 2017. Content. This proclamation replaced the previous executive orders and added Chad, North Korea, and certain Venezuelan government officials to the list of restricted countries. It aimed to address court concerns by providing a more detailed rationale for each country's inclusion. Legal challenges. While this version faced legal scrutiny, the US Supreme Court eventually upheld it in June 2018 in a 5-4 decision, ruling that the president had the authority to restrict entry for national security reasons. Proclamation 9983, this was January 31st in 2020. This expanded the travel ban to include 6 additional countries. Eritrea, wow, Kyrgyzstan, Myanmar, Burma, Nigeria, Sudan, and Tanzania. These countries faced restrictions on certain types of visas, particularly those for permanent immigration. Rationale: the Trump administration cited national security concerns and the country's failure to meet security and information sharing standards as the reason for their inclusion. The travel bans were highly controversial and widely criticized for their perceived targeting of Muslim-majority countries, leading to accusations of religious discrimination. Okay, reversal by the Biden administration. Upon taking office, President Biden signed an executive order on January 20th, 2021, revoking the travel bans imposed by Trump administration. Biden's order called for a review of current screening and vetting procedures and the development of recommendations to strengthen national security while ensuring a more equitable and non-discriminatory immigration system. So I agree with Biden's reversal there. What do you guys think? You guys please try to stay on topic if you're coming into the room. We're discussing US election policies on offer from the Trump and Biden campaigns. Okay, there was a rundown of the so-called travel bans. Okay, let's go back up. Okay, so Joe Biden's immigration policies. Border security. Halted the construction of the border wall and ended the MPP policy. Yeah, so we just went through that. Biden's approach emphasizes using technology and modernizing ports of entry to enhance border security. Do you guys think that the U.S. needs a border wall like Trump has been trying to build? And do you think he'll try to restart that project if he wins this election? Let me know what you guys predict there. Legal immigration. Joe Biden increased the refugee cap and reversed many of Trump's restrictive policies. Biden's administration supports comprehensive immigration reform, including a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants, particularly dreamers, those brought to the U.S. as children under DACA. Nothing too much we need to go through there. Let's look at climate change. Okay. Donald Trump, Paris Climate Agreement, withdrew the U.S. from the Paris Climate Agreement, arguing it was detrimental to American businesses and workers focused on promoting fossil fuel industries and rolling back Obama-era environmental regulations. 2 seconds. Okay. Energy policy emphasized energy independence through increased oil and gas production and reducing regulatory barriers to fossil fuel extraction and use. Joe Biden, Paris Climate Agreement, rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement and committed the US to achieving net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Biden's climate plan includes significant investments in renewable energy and electric vehicles. On this um, particular comparison of policies, Trump and Biden are quite far apart. Joe Biden's environmental justice promotes policies aimed at addressing the disproportionate impact of climate change and pollution on low-income and minority communities. His administration has introduced the Justice 40 initiative, ensuring that 40% of climate and clean energy investments benefit disadvantaged communities. So Trump is emphasizing energy independence with his climate change policies, through increased oil and gas production. And he withdrew from the Paris Climate Agreement, arguing it was detrimental to American business and workers. Rolling back Obama-era environmental regulations. And then Joe Biden is more interested in rejoining the Paris Climate Agreement and committing the U.S. to achieving a net zero greenhouse gas emission by 2050. And Biden's planning also includes significant investments in renewable energy and electric vehicles. And then, the environmental justice policy is aimed at ensuring that 40% of climate and clean energy investments benefit disadvantaged communities. What do you guys think of that, having a policy that's aimed at benefiting disadvantaged communities? Soap Var, let me know what stuff you think I should learn, and I will, of course, consider it. But I'm not interested in more viewers. I'm interested in delivering important policy information today. That's the goal of today. I'm not in the YouTube game for viewers. I'm more interested in the getting the right information out there, even if it's not popular. And this is also an unscheduled stream in the middle of a work day. So I thought I would come online and record this live, and the team is going to slice it up into useful informational clips after that. Okay, so the climate change differences between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, pretty far apart on that. Foreign policy, Donald Trump's foreign policy, America first, focus on renegotiating trade deals to favor the US and reducing American involvement in international organizations and agreements. Trump's foreign policy include direct engagement with authoritarian leaders and reducing troops in conflict zones like Syria and Afghanistan. Trade, foreign policy emphasized bilateral agreements and used tariffs as a tool to address trade imbalances, particularly with China. Joe Biden, multilateralism emphasizes rebuilding alliances and participating in international organizations. Biden has restored relationships with NATO allies and taken a firmer stance against authoritarian regimes. Trade. While maintaining some of Trump's tariffs on China, Biden's approach includes re-engaging with allies on trade and addressing global issues like climate change and human rights through multilateral efforts. So very different here. Donald Trump is willing to have direct engagement with authoritarian leaders, which I actually think is important. You want to have that direct line of communication open with all leaders, even if they are authoritarian leaders. I think that's important. Using tariffs as a way to address trade imbalances, I think is fair. Joe Biden, multilateralism emphasizes rebuilding alliances and participating in international organizations. as the US should. Biden has restored relationships with NATO allies and taken a firmer stance against authoritarian regimes. You want to make sure you don't take. I don't think it's wise to other authoritarian regimes. I think you always want to leave those lines of communication open and conversations happen. I think bad ideas. I think the best way to address bad ideas is through the war of ideas, where you have open debate and discussion. And some people would say, "Oh, you'll never convince these guys of thinking differently." If Daryl Davis can convince a KKK member as a black man that they are wrong about their positions on the black man, then anything, I think, is possible through intellectual discourse. So you can't give me that. We have too many examples. We have examples of evangelical Christians becoming atheists. We have examples of atheists becoming evangelical Christians. We have examples of KKK members becoming best friends with black men and renouncing their KKK affiliation. So it looks like Soap Var didn't have any stuff to share that I could learn to get more viewers. That's fine. Let's go. Global income agenda. Okay. We went through. Did we go through trade? Trade for Biden on foreign policy while maintaining some of Trump's tariffs on China. Biden's approach includes re-engaging with allies on trade and addressing global issues like climate change and human rights through multilateral efforts. Okay. Social issues. Donald Trump, abortion. Here we go. Strongly opposes federal funding for abortion and supports appointing conservative judges to overturn Roe v. Wade. Now let's do a rundown of Roe v. Wade. Quick rundown. Roe v. Wade is a landmark decision by the United States Supreme Court that was issued on January 22nd, 1973. The ruling effectively legalized abortion across the United States, establishing a woman's legal right to choose an abortion under the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. Here's a detailed breakdown. Case origins, we don't need that. Legal arguments, Roe's Attorney General. Okay. And now, if you guys, I won't go through the whole Roe v. Wade, but I just wanted to give you guys that quick overview. But of course, there's lots of information out there. And this is for anyone that's never heard of Roe v. Wade before. And if you think everyone should know about Roe v. Wade, then you might be thinking a little too USA-centric and your place in the world. So again, Donald Trump strongly opposes federal funding for abortion and supports appointing conservative judges to overturn Roe v. Wade. His administration expanded the Mexico City policy, blocking federal funding for international organizations that perform or promote abortions. LGBTQ plus rights. Opposed expansion to LGBTQ plus rights, including reversing protections for transgender individuals in military and healthcare settings, emphasized religious freedoms that often conflicted with LGBTQ plus protections. So those are the two key points from Donald Trump's social issues. Joe Biden on abortion supports reproductive rights and has worked to protect access to abortion services. Biden has called for the codification of Roe v. Wade to ensure it remains law despite judicial challenges. LGBTQ plus rights advocates for comprehensive protections for LGBTQ plus individuals, including supporting the Equality Act, which aims to prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity in various sectors, including employment, housing, and education. So these comparisons and these categories are just to give some of the key differences regarding economy, healthcare, immigration, climate change, foreign policy, and social issue policies, but comparing Donald Trump and Joe Biden's approach and presidencies, and what they plan to do in 2024 or in 2024 this year when either of them wins this election. I also started this live stream off by saying that it should be easy for you to denounce the assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life, whether you think Donald Trump is an asshole or immoral or not. My moral quest is to maximize well-being for myself and those around me. I think that is the source of the good life, and that kind of act is anti-human well-being. It is what I consider a bad act or a wrong act, and it should not be done, not the answer. I find it equivalent to I see it as a deep violation of democracy as well. Any of you out there that have a problem with January 6th and the incitement and all of this stuff, and if you have a problem with that and you don't have a problem with this assassination attempt, you're living in a sea of hypocrisy. This will all be clipped out and distributed, but I just want to thank those of you who stopped by and those of you who dropped some great questions. And I know this was in the middle of a work day, and I appreciate those of you who could stop by and contribute. But thank you so much, and there will be some clips dropping from this, and as always, let art and science inspire.